Well, that is almost all of the main wiring now done. I actually feel like I know what I'm doing now. Well, fingers crossed, of course. I want to finish off getting these little struts for this table. I really wasn't aware of these particular fuses. So the next thing I'm going to do is install the negative bus bar. As I've mentioned before, I'm having Blue Sea products, so that's a Blue Sea product as well. That will mount against that bulkhead directly behind where the panel will be, so that'll be nice and close to the panel. The other thing is I've got these dual bus bars, again Blue Sea. So one of those will be installed up in the V-berth and the other one on the port side where the fridge freezer is going to go, where I can connect up those 3 cables feeding different things there. And then it's going to be time to actually get that panel fitted. Well, that is almost all of the main wiring now done. There are some more things to do, but at this point in time, it's time that I can get that panel in, get it fitted, and then these 2 cables here, positive and negative, one will need to be going from the main battery isolation switch to the distribution panel, and then the negative cable will need to go from the distribution panel to the main bus bar. But also, just to mention, there is wiring that needs to go down this starboard quarter and aft to the lazarette and the compass pedestal. That work can be done later though. One thing just before I do fit this panel though is, I've mentioned before, this navigation table is going to have a lifting leaf panel so that there'll be storage underneath here, and also it'll give a slight fall, which will just make it easier for chart reading. So I do need to fit that hinge before I put that electrical panel in, because that hinge needs to go underneath the panel, meaning it'll sit on top of it. Well, I've had a very good look at the installation instructions for this distribution panel. I've actually changed a few things around, which, to be honest, it sort of surprises me in the sense that I actually feel like I know what I'm doing now. So, well, fingers crossed, of course. The main negative and positive cables were on the bottom of these bus bars. I'm actually going to be connecting the mains power and mains negative, so when the panel hinges out, there'll be less cable required because it'll be at the bottom. I've also wired up the backlighting for the panel together. They were just separate wires. And another thing that I'm going to do, getting ahead of myself, I'm going to install a switch on the panel so that during the daytime, if you don't need the backlighting on, you can just have that off, and obviously at night time you can flick it on. So another little fancy addition there, I guess. Added an extension to the wiring which needs to go to the negative for the windlass indicator switch. I did, just to mention as well, instead of screwing all these gauges on, I've actually bolted them so that they really will not move, rather than just those 10mm or 1/2 inch screws into the panel. So nothing will go anywhere, that's for sure. And they're all with nylock nuts, so yeah, nothing should move. So the next thing to do is to actually put this in place and get all of those cables connected where they need to. When you look at it that way, goodness, it looks like a mess, but I will get that tidier. Well, it's one of those catch up on a few little jobs time. So as well as just securing the bottom of that bulkhead there between the galley and the cabin too, I want to finish off getting these little struts for this table. There's 3 of them, as I've shown before. You can see here they've got these little pyramid top hats with a slot in the side, and what that's for is so that I can get my finger in to hold a nut once I drill a hole through one side of that little angle, so that I can bolt it and secure it to the frame that's bolted underneath that saloon table. And the other end is just a flat tab that will just have a hole punched through that where it lines up with those cleats on the mast pillar. And so getting those 6 holes drilled so that I can assemble it later is the plan now. And the reason why I haven't actually done this to this point in time is because I actually want to remove this saloon table so that I can have access all through this saloon area for when it comes time to putting in these battens for that beautiful coach roof Western red cedar. And that, my friends, is now next on the to-do list. Well, in order to protect the conductors or the cables from the power source, which is the batteries, the smart thing to do is to have fuses in those cables so that there's a fuse to prevent any high current going through those cables, overheating them and potentially causing a fire. Now, I've had a look around at different options and I really wasn't aware of these particular fuses until several months ago. But I just think that they are a brilliant idea. I've got both sorts. So there's the double here. So that can take 2 fuses running different cables from the battery. Or there's the single one. Now, what I like about them is that they are very, very compact. Compared to a lot of other fuses that you put in line with the cables, they do basically take up more length. They're not high like these, of course, but when you're talking about being right at the batteries, you've usually got a bit of room above the batteries, and I certainly do. And the other thing to say is I don't have any raised terminals on the batteries that I'm getting, so they're all bolted down with a thread inside of the battery, meaning that that reduces the height. So having these sticking up a little bit really is not an issue. And when it comes to fuses, there's quite a range from Blue Sea. They range from 30 to I think it's 300, lots of increments between. So that fuse goes down over the terminal, creating a fuse right on that stud. Great idea. Well, everybody, that is it now for the clips that were taken up to having that knee of mine operated on. So now I'm looking forward ahead positively at getting back to the good boat work on Mistress and forging ahead. There is a lot to come. In a few months' time, there'll be some pretty substantial announcements, but in the meantime, I'll be getting back to the work on Mistress slowly but surely, very, very carefully. I need to nurse my knee and actually this damn shoulder as well, but they're not going to stop me. I'm forging ahead. I'll be getting back to the work slowly but safely, and I am just so excited to get back to it. Spring is on our doorstep. We're not far away from spring. Today feels like a spring day. It's just beautiful. It's a sign of good things to come, I'm going to claim. There may be a little delay until the next video, but be assured the videos will be coming out. And while I'm here, can I ask you to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't, and please check out my website. And of course, leave a comment because I like reading what you have to say. Thanks very much. All the best to you, and until next time.